episode 4.
Welcome to the Revolutionary Baddies podcast.
Yes, welcome back. We are so glad to have you all again. If you are at episode 4, that means you have committed at least 3+ hours of your lives.
Yeah, we're together.
Yeah, you are I hope you all know you are a revolutionary baddie.
It's done.
Via listening.
Welcome.
Via interacting with us. Do not forget to check out our Instagram, Revolutionary Baddies. Let us know how you're feeling about the episodes, what you would like for us to talk about. And, we fam.
Yeah.
So welcome back.
And also, we do mention a lot of books,
Yeah.
and we mention a lot of people that are the ones that have helped us and are continuing to help us shape our politic, our understanding, what it means to be a revolutionary baddie. And so if there's people that we mention and we forget to add it to the show notes, please let us know.
Yeah.
Please. We love sharing the wealth. But, we are literally just girls, so we may forget some things.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
I'm 6 years postpartum. My brain is not the same. Where my postpartum girlies at?
Shout out to y'all.
The mothers. Yes.
Well, my name is Dee Dee.
I am Brittany, and we're your co-hosts, and we are going to take you on another dive into some revolutionary talk today.
Mm-hmm.
But first, how you feeling? How you feeling today?
Today, I'm doing good. So I have 5 godchildren.
Shout out to the aunties of the world. Not just the mothers, the aunties, the godmamas.
And so one of my goddaughters, my youngest goddaughter, she's coming from Philly to spend her spring break with me.
Ooh.
And so I'm picking her up from the airport later today. And it'll be really cute. It's really our first time, like, spending time with each other without her mom around. And I'm excited. She's just one of my babies. Now, she don't listen. She
The kids, how old is
according to her mama, she's 13.
Oh, no. Yeah.
She's 13, but she ain't listened for a real long time, as long as I've known her. So
she might not just listen to her mama, though, because kids be beefing with the parents.
No, 100%.
Yeah.
No, 100%. I believe she's going to be just fine
Mm-hmm.
with me. She's going to be in a different environment. She don't know what's going on. She don't know where she at for real. So she don't have any choice.
Her bearings, she ain't got her bearings straight.
She ain't got a bearing. She ain't got her comforts.
Right.
So, but we're going to have a great time. I'll actually do, family friendly stuff, which I normally don't do.
Are you going to be out the streets the whole time?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So.
The streets is going to be missing, Dee Dee. Wow. Are the streets ready?
I can't bring her to Pickleback.
Leave home.
She's
13. Look, back in my day.
We'll see.
Lock the doors. You don't open them doors for nobody.
We'll see.
Look, I'll drop my daughter off. They could keep each other. Okay, I think 2 of them survival in groups.
That's so funny. But yeah, so that's me. I'm excited to see her. How are you? How's your day?
It's going good. I was off work today.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, my job sponsored an outing. So I'd be like, fuck corporate world until they do shit like that. And I'm like, oh, yeah, thank you for the pedicure. Thanks.
Yeah.
Really appreciate all that you all do.
And how many of y'all was getting these pedicures?
It was 7 or 8 of us. It was 8 of us.
Okay.
And they did a little massage. They took us to a quiet room. And it was like 4 of us in a room. And we each had, somebody rubbing the feet, rubbing the toes, the legs. I was like, this is nice. Brought out the hot stones. And then we had the pedicure.
Okay.
So, very relaxing.
Love that.
I'm feeling refreshed.
Love that for you. Well, that should take us right into into our episode.
Let's get into it. We are talking about look, where my dogs at?
We right here, dog.
Actually, rest in peace to DMX. This week, yesterday made 4 years since he passed. I was devastated.
Yeah.
But we're talking about, skinfolk, kinfolk, we are one.
Right.
Cue, was it Frankie Beverly?
Uh-huh.
We are one.
R.I.P. Another one that we
Damn.
lost last year.
He was old though. It was time.
Okay, he was old, but damn.
I know. Still a hit. A big hit. Shout out to Frankie Beverly
Shout
and
out to
Maze.
Frankie Beverly.
And so
Philadelphia legend.
okay, that's right. He was
Hometown hero.
wow.
Yeah.
He was a John.
He is. He is a joint.
Now is John, is that gender neutral?
Yeah,
Okay.
it is. It's a person, place, or thing, but it can also be a concept.
Kind of like how niggas is for me.
Right,
It
but
could-
you can't call a cup a nigga. You can call a cup a John.
Let me get mad. That cup is a nigga. Damn, nigga gonna spill on me. It could be. It's a very fluid word for me.
Right. And speaking of niggas,
Where my real niggas
that's what we here to talk
We're
about.
here to talk about. This episode is really to highlight the importance of defining ourselves as a people
Mm-hmm.
and essentially begging the question, how can we fight for Black liberation if we are not deeply committed to the concept or the ideal of actually belonging to this defined group
Right.
of people across, socioeconomic lines. However, we have to differentiate between skinfolk and kinfolk.
Right.
There's a big difference.
Right.
And I think that plays out a lot in our national politics and a lot of public discourse.
Mm-hmm.
And I think to kind of, if we want to have some collective goals, we gotta hash it out. We gotta figure it out.
No, we got to know what's going on. And I think this also kind of stems from like everyone, as long as I've been around, people, especially Black people, are always like, when it comes to violence happening in our communities, when it comes to crimes, when it comes to access to education, people will push for unity.
Yeah.
But what does that mean?
And in a lot of those moments, we have unity, like, kind of flare up.
Mm-hmm.
And then it dissipates when it comes to organizing.
Right.
Which, like, Malcolm X famously said, we're not outnumbered, we're out organized. So we have moments when there's, like, these police brutality cases where across, regions and socioeconomic groups, we identify at our core in being Black and seeing this issue of state violence against Black bodies from the very rich celebs, politicians, to people on the street corner and everybody in between. We can identify as a group then, but when it's time to actually do our politics,
we on different pages.
Yeah, like, how are we reforming the ideal of policing? Are we abolishing the police? And that's where the cracks start to form in our group. So just a brief historical throwback. Race is a fairly new concept in human history. Like, it's just a little small dot in the scale of human history. And it really did not become a social construct until about the 16th century. And it pretty much was used to create the system of hierarchy. So it was a way for, in the kind of colonial projects, to organize and to say, okay, the white race. White people did not exist prior to the 16th century as a racial group.
Right.
Same for Black people. And, as what we all know coming from the transatlantic slave trade is that we were many peoples before.
Many tribes.
Many
dialects. Languages.
Nomadic people.
Yeah.
All types of things.
Cultural differences.
And then, when we left the shores of Africa, we were members of tribes and ethnic groups. And when we arrived to the shores of America, we were Negroes.
Right.
And so there was obviously a very real effort to erase our identities and take our languages from us and pretty much everything, and just make us one group, which was enslaved peoples.
Right. And separating us from our cultural, the the things culturally that would recognize us as different
Yeah.
people, as distinct,
Yeah.
and not different in a way that is like better than the other, but in a way that is just distinct.
Yeah. Like our identities.
Right.
So we have this issue, as the boys called it, the race issue.
Mm-hmm.
And it was something that honestly did not exist prior to. So kind of our whole understanding of being black people is something that we're still working through.
Right.
And I think we still have to give ourselves time to figure it out because, we had to come out of enslavement. For other
Mm-hmm.
people throughout the diaspora, they had to come out of colonialism. They're in neo-colonialism. So we're all still going through this flow in history and seeing how do we define ourselves as people of the diaspora.
Yeah. I mean, even identifying as black
Yeah.
is a fairly new concept.
Right. Like
It's
literally the past
like within
50
a couple
years.
yeah, maybe this century or the century before.
I don't even know if
I don't think
that book we read, Love Songs of W.E.B.
Du
Du
Bois.
Bois.
Uh-huh.
You know, I got to slow down on my letters. EBD. And it's a fictional book, but the character was basically saying that I believe it was her mom, like in the 70s,
Mm-hmm.
was in college, and she called home to rural Georgia, and she was like, we're black. And her
Mhm.
mom was like, why the hell would you go by black?
Right.
Like,
Right.
what are y'all up there calling?
Right.
What are y'all up there calling each other that?
Right.
Because that was a negative term before then. It was Negro. So
Mhm.
yeah,
Or colored.
colored.
Yeah.
So yeah, just now embracing black. And then I think for me, when I was younger, it was like, are you black or African? Which one do you identify? Are you
Mhm.
black or are you African American?
Right.
And it's like it's interchangeable.
It is interchangeable, but it also in a lot of ways doesn't matter.
It doesn't.
I mean, in some ways, I do understand that when people identify as black, oftentimes for us, it is a political decision that you're making. It is, there's like some political energy that's behind naming yourself as black these days.
Yeah.
But that just was not the case, more than probably 60 years ago.
Yeah.
You was colored, you was a Negro,
Afro-American. Malcolm X
Afro-American,
used
or
that
you a
term.
Negress.
Yeah.
That, yeah. And then the other, obviously, derogatory terms that the white folks called us.
Right.
So there's those. And now, I mean, there's black, there's African American, and then there's niggas. That's more of a term of endearment that we've adopted and
Appropriated
reworked,
over time. Yeah.
rebranded, and it's been popularized mostly through music,
Yeah.
through hip hop music in particular, which is now it is the most popular music genre in the world.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah,
It's always evolving.
yeah,
But really and hopefully we kind of get to it in this episode. Call yourself what you want. Whatever
Mhm.
your pronouns are, whatever your racial, however you present yourself. I'm black, I'm African, a new African, whatever. Where is your mind at as far as black liberation or
Right.
the liberation of the oppressed people that descend from Africa? So that's what we need to be getting down to. All of the other stuff is obviously going to differ. Generationally, it's going to differ. What
Mhm.
our parents, who knows what my child will, I don't know where else it could go, but who knows? It's going to keep going. Things
Uh-huh.
evolve. And so it's always going to be that. But do we see ourselves as a common group with common objectives and a common enemy
Right.
to defeat?
Right.
So we have black nationalism. That's
Mhm.
been something that has evolved over time.
Right.
And like you said, we've had these different movements. We've had black power movements. We've had, black consciousness to kind of awaken people and get them to say, like, hey, this is how we have to move forward and see ourselves as a people, specifically here as black Americans.
Mhm. Mhm.
And while we're at it, let's put some respect on black Americans.
please.
Come on now.
Can we?
Come on now.
It's interesting. I mean, I think like there's in a way there's contradictions within it, right? There's like the very real um privilege
Mm.
that we have because we have a US passport, because you're born in the United States, compared to what people see happening, in other places of the world, the amount of access that you have because you are an American, and also because of the level of influence that the U.S. has had across the world, whether it's music, it's the TV shows, it's the idea of the American dream, that you can still meet people today that are from Europe. That's like, my dream is to go to New York City. My dream in life is to go to Times Square. Like, this is people's
Yeah.
life dream.
Yeah. Till they see them rats.
And being a Black American, in a lot of ways, I feel like I actually grew up in a different country
Yeah.
than what people are seeing when people think about
Yeah.
the U.S.
The U.S. has the biggest propaganda machine, I would say, of the 20th and 21st century.
Yeah.
We branded the hell out of ourselves.
I
The
mean,
rebrand, the branding, really since really the Revolutionary War, like being the first democracy and defenders of democracy, and that's how we talk about like what our role was in World War II. We went and liberated and took democracy and stopped fascism, and it's a lie. It's propaganda. And so a lot of people here and abroad are really still caught up in the propaganda. And I think what's most shocking for people right now in America is they're like, our democracy is being destroyed. And it's like, oh, baby, you found out the tooth fairy didn't put that dollar under your pillow.
Right.
What a betrayal.
Right.
Because it's such a strong messaging globally about, we're the best nation in the world. We're just the richest.
Right. The idea of choice and all of that. There was a couple times when me and my homegirl Cece, shout out to Cece, we went to Europe and kind of bopped around for like 6 weeks. So naturally, we was, meeting people while we were out, at restaurants, on the train. Like, we're just meeting people. And we would meet Black people that live there. They're from there. They may be a generation or two removed. A lot of them were, African immigrants that lived in Ireland or London or Paris or whatever. And, they would ask us, well, where are you from? And so I'm like, well, I'm from Philly. She's from D.C. And they'd be like, yeah, but okay, but where's your parents from? So I would say, well, my parents is from Philly.
Yeah.
She would say her parents, they from Philly, New Orleans. And then they were like, I mean, it just wasn't satisfying whatever their actual question was. And then they were like, okay, no, where are you from? And I'm like, what actually is in your question?
Yeah.
Because it's a lot more there than a lot of people realize, because they just think Black Americans, hip hop, y'all know how to fucking dress, the culture, the cultural influence, the aesthetic, and the influence of our slang and all of that. But they think, I don't know what they think, honestly.
I think it's because they, like most people, you understand the world somewhat through your experience.
Right.
So because so many of them in England and other parts of the UK and Western Europe, they are first generation in their country, or second generation. So it's the like natural assumption that we would be too.
Right. Yeah.
And I doubt they're getting in-depth world history lessons. I mean, it's like, I'm sure they know about the slave trade and, this whole thing.
Right.
But it's like, perhaps they just don't really conceptualize that we are not, because America is like also like the land of immigrants, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, yeah, there are a lot of immigrants in America, but we're not one of them.
Right.
And there are black immigrants in America.
100%.
And maybe because they know that maybe while their parent went to London, their uncle went to Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
So they kind of like, yeah, it's black immigrants. But it's like, yeah, there are.
Right.
And I'm not one of them.
I'm not.
I want my reparations.
I'm not.
Because we can get that also. That kind of comes into the reparations discussion. Who qualifies?
Yeah.
And like, and I do. I want to just say that. I just want to say I do.
I do, in fact.
Yeah.
Both sides.
I want back pay from my grandma, my great grandma, my great great, and my great great great.
Because as far as I know, I'm from here. I'm from here.
Yeah.
America.
Been here.
Obviously, I understand that at somewhere along my line,
Yeah.
my people were shipped here, forced here, put into labor,
Right.
in the fields in the South. That I know.
Right.
Obviously, I know that more than likely my lineage traces back to some part of Western Africa.
Right.
Okay.
But
Now what?
we're talking a couple hundred years ago.
Now
So,
what?
right.
I mean, it would be amazing if me and my family had names that we passed down, recipes that we passed down, physical things that links us back to, but we don't have that.
Yeah.
And I think it's difficult and I know it's not just us. There's also the folks in Brazil. There's also the folks that were transported. I mean, across. But just to say, for Americans, it wouldn't be the same if I was born in Jamaica.
Right.
And they asked me, well, where are you from? I say, I'm from Jamaica. It wouldn't be no other questions after that. It wouldn't be, well, where your parents from and even though the history is the same.
The exact same.
I mean,
they just got dropped
they speak
off
English
first.
too. They just got dropped off first. That's
the
all.
boat did like a dip.
A little
South
pivot.
America, the Caribbean, and then we were like the last stop.
Yeah.
We the last stop niggas.
We had to end.
But we are one. We are one. Okay. And
Right.
so yeah, but also no one asked white Americans like, are you Dutch?
Nobody.
And nobody cares when they answer.
No, right. Because what
Oh.
that mean?
I've got Scottish blood. Oh wow. Is that why you got that sunburn? Like, okay. I don't know.
Is that why you got that what?
Sunburn. That's why you burn it up in this motherfucker. You red as a motherfucker. Like, okay,
Right.
Scottish win 300 years ago.
Right.
Nobody cares. Like it's done at this point. Although it makes sense for some things. And like we are very West African, but at the same time we are very Black American.
Very much so.
So
Very much so.
those are some of those discussions of like and once again I think that it's just important in understanding the history of how colonialism shaped the world.
Right.
Because a lot of people, even I would say a couple years ago in discussions, people would be like, I just want to go back to Africa, like go back as one as if they ever were there. But like, Black Americans talking about going to Africa. And I'm like, you do know, like they did a whole project happened over there.
Yeah.
Like you're not going to go anywhere in the world that's been unscathed by European
imperialism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yes, it is going to be much different. It's going to still be it's going to be a majority Black country.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as a place that you're not going to bump into a Frenchman,
right,
asking you how you do your hair like that, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
They're everywhere. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So it's kind of just one understanding the history of the diaspora,
right,
and just a small fact that for some reason it's shocking to some people is that the majority of people enslaved did not come to the United States. Only about 5% of all people captured came to, I believe it's less than 10%, I'm pretty sure. The majority went to Brazil.
Yeah.
And the Caribbean. So it's also this idea of like that slavery was like West Africa to America.
Yeah.
It's like all these disconnects, and it's like the majority of us did not come
right
here in sheer numbers. But what is the importance? Like, what do you think is the importance of like really having this ideal of identifying ourselves along racial lines?
Yeah. I mean, I think what it's always the question to me of like what's most important about my identity that lends itself to the overall fight for liberation.
Right.
Like that is that is ultimately the question that we have to be in, because if we're just stuck in the identity of it all, it's good to know the history, the context, the complexity, but that is not the only thing.
Yeah.
And that we have to also understand that identity is also co-opted. There's ways that that neoliberalism also uses identity to put us against each other.
Mm-hmm.
So in a lot of spaces talks about the diaspora wars. That's one of those places that neoliberalism does show up and in a way that doesn't really help us understand. Again, this is not to say that people shouldn't be in dialogue about the differences. It is important to
Yeah.
understand the complexities, but understand it and then
Right.
move from there. Don't just stay at like, oh, it's just so complex. Those people are just so different from me. We have to move past that.
Yeah.
And there's so many ways that the propaganda that we receive, that we read, that we're in, further separates us. In high school, so I grew up in Philly, and the part of Philly that I grew up in, specifically Southwest, it has a high concentration of African immigrants, Liberian, Nigerian immigrants in that part of the city. And so I went to school. I went to a big high school, real ghetto, real black,
Mm-hmm.
real policed, zero tolerance, that kind of thing. That one of them type schools.
Yeah.
It was given. Y'all seen Lean on Me?
Lean on me.
Fair East Side.
Ah. Okay.
That was my school. But
What's that movie in Philly?
no, it's in Jersey.
Jersey. Okay.
But the African immigrant students were majority of them were sectioned off into their own part of the school, and they were considered the Esau kids, which was English as a second language, even though these motherfuckers spoke English.
Right.
Hello. They spoke English, but that's what they were called. They were, sectioned off, and we weren't. I mean, some of them would be in some of my classes, but comparatively to who was in my class, they were, they were segregated from us. Now, I don't have a full sense of whether that was wrong or right. I don't have enough understanding about it, because part of it does feel like they needed a bit of an on ramp
Right.
to from where they were coming from into Southwest Philly, which is a completely, I imagine it's a shell shock.
Yeah.
Um, but again, the segregation was there, and a lot of us were very separate from the African students. We didn't hang with them. We didn't talk to them. They were, they were
Yeah.
not who we wanted to be around. And so, um, there's ways that identity separates us from a way that is actually really unhelpful and doesn't help us learn about each other better.
Yeah. Yeah. I, you know, well, in the South, I always joke like in the South, you either black or white.
Yeah.
When I would go up to New York to visit my friend,
Mm-hmm.
it's like it's kind of that same thing. Like, are you Caribbean? Are you Panamanian? Are you Jamaican? Or whatever. And it's like, look, in the South, you're black or you're white.
Mm.
In the South, people don't get into a whole bunch of you're from Guam, you're from Guatemala, you're from Mexico, you're from Puerto Rico. You Latino, you're Hispanic, or they'll just call you Mexican and you're not even Mexican. Like having to explain to people like Mexico is one country, one nationality. That is not every Latino person that you see. So like, it's not a lot of those like get into like, are you this or you that?
Right. But okay, but Brittany, you are from North Carolina.
Right.
I feel like if you was in Texas, it wouldn't be just black and white.
Well, Texas is not the South. That was the Southwest. Texas is its own fucking country. Texas and Florida.
Okay, but what about Louisiana?
They got the Creole thing going on.
They got the Creole
They
thing
got a lot going on.
on.
Yeah,
They got a lot of Chinese people there too.
they do. They do. And like Mississippi,
Like generationally.
yeah, and we have Asians. But once again, like
Black and and then there's South Florida, which is a melting pot of the global South.
it really is. But once again, Florida and Texas,
Okay.
they be trying to succeed.
Okay, well, what's the South? What's the South then?
All the horror stories of Jim Crow.
Okay,
North
So
Carolina's at the
that's the
tippity
enti-
top.
that's the whole country. I got a
South
book
Carolina.
called Up South.
South Carolina, Georgia, Mississippi, Alabama. We forget about Arkansas and Oklahoma. They out there.
Yeah.
Louisiana. What am I mean? I think that's it.
Yes.
That's the South.
There's also
Tennessee. I forget about them. They right beside us.
yeah.
Virginia, I don't really count. I feel like that's like the Mason-Dixon line. Like that's when it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like also just in the context of the South, there's the Up South as well. There's the Midwest South. There's and what I mean by that is the racial repression that happened across this country for black people in
Right.
different ways.
Right.
What makes the South so distinct was because so much of the South's economy was dependent on the land, dependent on farming, dependent on agriculture. And when slavery was, I ain't gonna say it was abolished because it's not, but when it was not extended,
Mm-hmm.
and when Juneteenth and enslaved people were free, the economy went down so far. So in a lot of ways, up north, places like Philly, New York, Boston, Chicago, Detroit, these are places that had the industrial revolution to also depend on for the economy to boom in those places. But there was also very real racial repression that happened during those years. One example, specifically about Chicago, I read this book called High Risers, which is about the Cabrini Green projects in Chicago, and talked about how when they built the housing, this was during the Great Depression originally, and it was meant for low income people and immigrants. So the Polish folks that's all up in through Chicago, the Italians, people coming from Eastern Europe were able to have subsidized or free housing.
Right.
And because of the construct of race, they were able to elevate economically a lot quicker than the black people that were in Chicago. And so what was left was the black people in the projects. And so then once they started building more projects, it was the white people that would be burning it down, that would be harassing, killing black people because they were building the housing projects in specific northern neighborhoods of Chicago and that kind of thing. And so there's ways where it is black and white,
Right.
and it isn't just the South.
Yeah, not just, but the South is because I think the South, when people tend to immigrate to America, they typically go to urban metropolitan areas,
Right.
and the South just doesn't have a lot of them.
Yeah.
So that's why in the South you're not gonna meet a lot of people from Jamaica, from Africa. You definitely will, especially times have changed, but
Yeah.
like 20 and 30 years ago, nobody was moving from Nigeria to Cary.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Until
right.
certain job industries started to
Right.
come here,
Right.
tech companies and things like that would bring
Mhm.
people. So that's why I say it was very black and white in the sense of there just was not a lot of immigrants.
Mhm.
I remember when I met one of my closest friends, shout out to Nalisa, and she told me she was Panamanian. I'm like, what's that? Like, I don't get it. She's black. So I'm
Yeah.
like, your parents aren't from here. And they speak Spanish. I had never come across a Spanish speaking black person
Right.
until middle school. Now imagine if I would have grew up in New York City. That would have been I would have. There's nothing but Spanish speaking black people, or some other type of French speaking black people. Everything.
Yeah.
So when I do visit New York and I tell people like I'm African American, they're like, oh, okay, that's it. Damn. Wow.
I'm like, yeah, just regular black.
Just old regular down south black.
Just regular black. I literally said, I was like, no, I'm just regular black. They was like, why you say it like that? I mean, they took it as that I was saying something negative about, like I was just self-hate.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, no, I'm just, what I mean by that is, as far as I know, it's African American through and through, both sides.
I jokingly came up with the term. I was dating a guy from Senegal. And of course, he spoke French. And me and my friend went to an event with him, and there was Afro Latinos, white people. It was a very diverse event. And so finally, I was like, let me coin the term, because they were playing nothing but like salsa music and stuff at this thing. And we were like, yo, we trying to hear like at least some Frankie Beverly and Maze or something. Like, you don't have to play Chingy or Juvenile, but can we get some oldies, like some good party music?
Chingy is crazy.
Chingy, I don't know why that popped in my mind. Shout out to Chingy. You know what? This wasn't that long ago, so Chingy wasn't even popping in. And
when you said Frankie Beverly and Maze and then Chingy, I was like, auntie.
Because I could hit me with the mashup. Somebody hit me with that mashup. The right there to Joy and Pain. And so I told him, I said, you know what? We want to hear some music because we are the contre nigres. You know, he spoke French, so it was a play. We country niggas.
Right.
Me and my friend, we country.
Right.
And so we are a particular regional group of Negroes. We are the contre nigres.
Shout out to the contre nigres.
Okay, Eastern North Carolina, stand up. Best barbecue in the world. Texas, I don't want to hear nothing about your barbecue. I'll tell y'all in a later episode how I got in a little altercation at a barbecue spot, because where is the pig wash on it? You know what I'm saying? It wasn't like vinegar based.
The what?
They call it like what do they call it? A hog wash or wine?
Oh.
It's the vinegar based style barbecue,
okay.
which is the only
that's
kind.
Eastern style.
That's the only kind I acknowledge. I don't want no barbecue sauce on my barbecue. Anyway, so once again, we could get into all these things about the different types of skin folk, right?
Right.
But now we have to get locked into kinfolk, which are who can we build with?
Right.
Who, despite all of these differences, because we've met people, and like I say, me and my friend, the one who's Panamanian American, we on the same page. Right. We locked in about what we want as a people and who the op is.
Right.
And it's so important. It's very easy for us to identify our op. I don't have to say.
I don't think it's that easy though.
I don't think it's that easy. No, you're right, because it's not just a racial thing.
Right.
But at the same time, it is.
The country is race class based. That we know. That's a fact. And I think that when people are people, we say the man. Yeah. I feel like that was a thing growing up.
The man.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
Oh no, the man is trying to hold me down. The man. So I feel like that was one way that we were collectively trying to identify this like mystery, or Uncle Sam. That's another one that was kind of taken up as part of the ops. This in the imagery of it that went behind it. What we have now is our current national president and Elon Musk and the tech industry, which is again a fairly new development in terms of the amount of power that they have, both financially, influentially, and politically.
So who is the man now?
Who is the man now?
It's still who it was.
Is it? He's still there.
Yeah.
He's still there.
The man is still there.
Yeah.
But
it isn't just, I say all that to say, it isn't just the Wall Street bros.
No.
It used to be just the Wall Street bros.
I think it's those who have reckoned or attached themselves to whiteness. So all white people are not enemies at all
Mm-hmm.
by a long shot. Plenty of allies.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, but those that are still beholden to the old concept of what it is to be white,
Mm-hmm.
they are the man.
And the hierarchy of
The
it.
hierarchy, because it's you have the man, which is like this big power player, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you got these podunk dumb rural motherfuckers
Uh-huh.
across North Carolina, not just in Alabama, deep south, whatever.
Yeah.
And they
I mean,
like,
everywhere where it's rural,
and they think
which is
everywhere
everywhere,
which is everywhere.
because that's most of the country.
It's most of the country.
Yeah.
A lot of spread out schools
Mm-hmm.
and hospitals and everything and land.
Yeah.
So those people will act on behalf of the man. So they
Right.
don't have none of the power,
Yeah.
but they are the op as well, because they associate themselves with power that they do not have, and they try to, via intimidation or lynch mobs, kind of enact some of those
Yeah.
things, that violence against black bodies, the police state.
Right.
But yeah, how do we define ourselves across these class lines? Because we brought up class,
Mm-hmm.
which I think now is one of the biggest things we have to confront.
For sure. For sure. The working class needs to rise up. That's it.
We have nothing to lose
We
but our
literally
chains.
we literally have nothing to lose. I mean, I think and that's also part of that's part of the plan of the man is to dismantle um firstly, historically in this country, unions have been the places where working class people are able to move things and shift things politically.
Yeah.
The only reason why we even have PTO, I feel like we already said this
Yeah, about
before, but
PTO.
we got PTO. That happened because of the union fights.
Mhm.
Having sick leave because of union fights. Um, I mean, most any kind of leave, pretty
Yeah.
much. Any kind of parental leave, maternity leave, paternity leave, union fights.
And I think that's one of the failures of some union movements is not uniting and being divided by racism,
Mm-hmm.
and not empowering the unions to bring in all people,
Right.
whether it's Latinos, whether, albeit if they're immigrant or not, been here generationally, like having that solidarity
Right.
along being working class people.
Right.
And that's why I think there was such a violent reaction to communism and such a suppression of it,
Mm-hmm.
such a naughty. I think Du Bois called it like a witch word. It became a witch word,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
And
McCarthyism.
yeah, so that's why there was such a effort to get rid of it, because it was awakening people to say, all right, we have black struggles, we have
Mm-hmm.
immigrant struggles, we have all these things, but we're working class people.
Yeah. And the class struggle is
Yeah.
the struggle, and also that in many ways the people that are in power at the state level also suppress through legislation the ability for unions to even form, number
Yeah.
one,
Right.
but also for them to collectively bargain. So in the state of North Carolina, for instance, I know it's the case in Florida and many other states, you cannot build a union
Yeah.
if you are a public employee, period. City workers, teachers, and educators, you cannot form a union in this state.
And so many of them are black, and that's why they do not want black people organized.
Right.
But I do think that black people, in different efforts to organize across racial lines, we still have a unique plight
Mm-hmm.
that no other group in America, no matter how poor, no matter how much they work alongside us, will experience. And that's true globally as well, which is
Right.
where we have ideals of like Pan-Africanism, right? And that we are this really a people that have been defined and crafted through our counterance to our colonial counterpart,
Right.
which is white people, Western people from Western Europe. And so, once again, how do okay, so that's a battle within itself.
Right.
But we have this internal battle about what are our collective goals as a people.
Right.
And all right, so let's take it to Obama.
Mm.
You know, when the country became
Obama.
Oh, where'd
You
that come
remember
from?
that?
Where'd that come from?
It was a song. Our president is black.
Okay.
It
Okay,
was,
no, the one with Jeezy?
there was that one, but there was that was like
Obama. I
it
don't know.
was like a play on O'Milly.
Oh, okay. O'Milly. I'm about to look that one up. Get it on a mashup. But like, Obama's election made America post-racial.
Right.
Right. That whole thing. And it was like we have a black face in the highest place in America. Or that's seemingly, that was the propaganda put forth. Look, America has finally elected a black man.
Yeah.
Now,
So we good.
right. Now, I would love to see America elect a nigga that look like Clifton Powell. You know what I'm talking about? Clifton Powell.
What he look like?
He dark skinned.
Okay.
And shout out to Kamala too, but and I'm not trying to get into it with my biracial people because I love y'all. I love y'all niggas. Yeah, I love y'all niggas. You know what I'm saying? I love y'all real bad. But, we haven't had anyone who's actually descended from the womb of a black woman ascend to those heights yet.
Right.
I'm waiting on it. It make a difference. And it make a difference.
I mean, I think also, I'm sure a lot of things would need to change. A lot of things would actually need to change for it to make a difference. Specifically, what they have the ability to do and what they choose to do in terms of backing and being on the side of what their donors want.
Right.
Because that's where it literally doesn't matter who is
the president
of this country, because they're so adhered to the private dollars that they get in order for them to win or lose their campaigns. And that's not changing.
But why can't they just get in office and be like Trump? Pull out that fat marker and be like, I know I said one thing, but guess what, motherfucker? I'm doing this now. I think that's what people are looking for, right?
People are looking for that.
So, black people specifically. So it's so many times where people are like, Obama cannot be the leader of black America, right? Mm-hmm. Kamala cannot be the leader. And not even just in the presidency, people in Congress and other high positions. And my answer is, why not? Because not solely, you know what I'm saying? Obviously, they're not going to get in office and be like, I ain't worried about nothing else. I'm just here to, sign the reparations check. No one's saying that. But I think that there has to be an understanding that there is no American progress without black progress. Mm-hmm. And so any politician, white, black, anything in between across the spectrum, it should be, if you actually want to preserve democracy, what exists of it, you have to be a champion for black Americans.
Yeah.
And so when we get those black politicians in office and they sell us on the whole, like, well, I'm just a representative of this district or whatever, I ain't trying to hear that, nigga.
Right.
And that's when the skinfolk, kinfolk thing kind of transitions, because why not?
Yeah.
Why not? You can try and not succeed, right? But God knows you could try.
But they are, because how they even got into that position and how the position is set up, it is meant for you to, try to move the U.S. economy forward.
Right.
Through exploitation, through continued colonization, and through the propaganda that is given to the people, that all you got to do is work harder and you'll get what you deserve. And then, I mean, the U.S., the budget that we have just on war, defense, weaponry, the military, that ends up being a big part of the role as well. And we have to build, through our movement work, through liberation, through revolutionary action, is how we build revolutionaries to be and to practice being into positions of power. And it isn't just subjective to the national president role. It's also the local, our local politicians. Durham is apparently one of the most progressive cities in the South because of the politics and combined with the economy that we have here. There is the tech industry, and then there's also Duke, which is also the school and the hospital, one of the major employers
Right.
of the city. And so we kind of already have that aspect of it. And then we also tend to have moderate to progressive city council members, county commissioners, school board members, that kind of thing. But they got their shit too.
But my question becomes, when these politicians, and one, I think it's worth having the discussion about, politicians are not going to, they are not organizers.
Right.
They're not in the
Right.
movement, right? They could
Right.
be. They could be playing a role because
There have been some.
There have been some,
Yeah.
for sure. But white people know how to utilize their politicians
Right.
to preserve, in some ways, preserve their race. And, so what is it when we have skin folk in office and they're not feeling like kinfolk?
Right.
But when it's election time, they are in our communities. They need us.
They trying to be down with the niggas.
They down with the niggas.
They from where we from. They grew up where
I
we
grew
grew
up
up.
on this corner. Yeah, all it is. And then when they get in office, it's like, well, come on, guys. You have to understand that this.
Right.
And it's like, so what good is it?
Yeah. I mean, part of it is there needs to be organized forces behind every single election.
Yeah.
That isn't just about, that's really thinking long term about how do we practice governing people now and making decisions, making hard decisions with the community that's alongside us, not after the fact.
Right.
Or not, behind closed doors. There has to be a level of transparency, but again, organizations and our organized liberatory organizations, we have to be the ones that's not leaving electoral politics off the table. Everything is on the table.
Right.
Now, obviously, we can get into a back and forth or a debate about tactics, but strategically, we need this as part of it. We need this in our toolbox, and we have to be in it for the long term, because 4 years, it's a lot of shit that you cannot achieve within 4 years. And you only realize that once you get into those positions where you have to make those decisions.
So let me ask you this. Would it be more impactful to have a white candidate who is strongly aligned with some of the goals of maybe some liberatory struggles than to have a black candidate that is moderate? And, they from south side of Philly. Yeah, sure. And, but, they're kind of like your traditional liberal.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I mean, like that skin folk, kinfolk thing. Like, what use are you to us as if you even consider, I guess, and we define ourselves by many things, but like, where is being black on your list?
Yeah.
That might be the next question for people. I mean, where is being black on your list? How important is that to you?
Yeah. I mean, to your question, I do think it is better, especially depending on, like, what's the campaign that we're trying to win, what's the demand that we have that we're trying to make happen.
Right.
That it is better to have a white person that is more aligned with our goals, more aligned of what around what we're trying to achieve, and will champion it to actually happen and be executed, because that person is actually exercising our common enemy. Whereas a black moderate, they're still a little confused on who the common enemy is, and it isn't too many guns in the street. How do guns even get there?
Right. Who's the manufacturer?
How did they get there?
Yeah. Who's transporting?
Because we ain't making guns. It ain't no warehouse making no guns for niggas in
it's a couple
Westville.
3D printers out there.
It is,
now.
Yes.
But
A newer development.
We're not making AR-15s.
Right.
AK-47s.
Right.
We're not doing it. But and then once again, it comes down to like, as a people, we've got to decide who or what our enemy. Last episode we talked about capitalism being the op, right? But like, who's the enemy and who are we?
And that
In the fight against this enemy. So I have a quote from The Art of War. It's probably one of the most famous quotes from it. But he says, if you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. If you know yourself, but not the enemy, for every victory gained, you will also suffer a defeat. If you know neither the enemy nor yourself, you will succumb in every battle. So I feel like in organizing or any type of movement or just any type of like talk about liberation, if we aren't defining who we are and knowing who we are and how we move and what our pitfalls are and what our strengths are, and we aren't clearly defining the man or the enemy, then we're going to succumb in every battle.
Right.
Because we're going to prop people up who don't represent us. Shout out to Ballard the Bullet. It was one of my favorite speeches. About Malcolm spoke about having these people, the white politicians will pick someone black to come into our communities to just work as their hand.
Right.
And we have to know ourselves to know that nigga don't belong here.
Right.
And we can't be scared to say, oh, come on, man. Like, come on, let's get behind him. I don't fuck with Cory Booker. Or Jeffrey's ass. Is that his name? Jeffrey's?
Okay.
I definitely don't trust his ass. I definitely don't.
The light skins.
Shout out to my light skin niggas. I love y'all niggas. Yeah, I love y'all niggas. But Jeffrey's, no sir.
Right.
Because I see how you move. And I hear what you're saying. But you've got somebody else's money in your pocket. I wish I had my glasses on to twist up. He's got a certain group of people's money in his pocket.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And that's who he's going to answer to.
And that's who he's serving. So I guess as black people, kinfolk, we got to get our money up so we can put it in their pockets. We got to.
And understanding ourselves, understanding what we're fighting for is an evolving process. Yeah. That actually is the struggle.
That is
like when people talking about get in the struggle, we have to fight.
Who is
that is what we're talking about. Yeah. That is actually the struggle. And again, like it is an evolving process. There are many manifestos that are out here that speaks to that already. That organizations like Black Alliance for Peace, organizations like Malcolm X Grassroots Movement have developed. Like these are, our core goals or our core. Here's what we're trying to achieve. Here's our North Stars.
Yeah.
So there are organizations, liberatory organizations that have that. We encourage you to join one. I encourage y'all to look into these organizations that do already exist. See where they align with where you are at. And with the liberatory work that needs to happen, and then get organized for sure.
And I think, like, following that, we have to get out of just saying, like, man, I want black people to be free. But you know what I'm saying? And once again, how important is being black to you? Like, where is it on your list? Because if you just say it, just because it's kind of like, at this point, like, kind of a rhetoric.
Yeah.
But you actually do not see yourself in other black people. Like when people talk about, I've been in spaces with white people or other people, and you can tell in the way they're talking about like a certain group of black people, maybe lower class, quote unquote, socioeconomically. That's me. Right. I haven't grown up in the projects, but I'm a project bitch in front of a white person who want to talk some shit. Yeah, I actually am a project bitch. What you got to say about us?
Now what? What's up?
And when they talk about bad and bougie, I ain't got bougie money, but I'm them too. Because what you got to say? Because once again, it's like that united front. Yeah. If somebody talking about Africans, hold up, baby. I'm West African via descent. Fuck you mean? Fuck you mean?
No, we pulling up.
I'll jump.
Because what you got to say?
Because you can get jumped. But that's the mindset.
Right.
Would you jump in?
Right. Would you jump in? Would you be like, oh, they having a fair one? No. get your ass in the field.
And depending on who's against who, it ain't got to be somebody black. Let it be my Latino brothers and sisters and somebody talking about them. I'll jump in. Watch.
Right.
Mommy don't take easy to no disrespect. Papi, watch it. Watch your mouth. Those my people. Because we are globally the global south. People of the global south, okay?
People of the global south.
Watch it.
That's what we're here for. But just know that it is an evolving process.
It is. So get with your niggas and
we
talk
don't
about
have all the answers, but I will tell you, joining an organization makes the difference.
right. And you got to find your people.
You gotta find your people.
In movement.
Right.
And I don't know, is there like a movement app? Like a Tinder?
That's
and you can
funny.
swipe and you can be like, I don't know about them niggas.
Not yet.
Maybe.
Don't put it out
Pick
there.
a
just
movement.
Yet.
People in tech. Hit us up in the DMs.
The good ones.
A movement app.
The
'Cause
revolutionary techies.
The revolutionary techies.
Because it's motherfuckers, if you just let somebody anywhere, they just going to do that shit for money.
Yeah.
Then organizations going to have to pay their hard-earned nonprofit dollars to be a part of this app to get the youngins to
Just
join.
$9.99 a month. $9.99. But I do think but to speak to that as we wrap it up, when people say, y'all got to go out and join organizations.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, is there a storefront? Like people, it is kind of hard. So you you have to really seek it.
Yeah,
if you're,
do.
especially if you're not in a major, like we're in Durham.
Yeah.
So like I could come down to the Bull on like a Friday and it's a group protesting or it's a group meeting or organizing, and I can go to these different places. I can go on Facebook events and find some type of organizing event. If you're in rural North Carolina, not so much,
it's not as many. Or it's one or two. And that's where everybody that cares about something is, but they are not moving. Yeah. They're not moving. It's not active.
Or maybe they're the bourgeois.
They're the bourgeoisie. It's super Christian and that kind of thing, which is not the place for everybody.
Yeah. So we need that app. We need Hinge. We need app for movement, so you can go through and find. But at the end of the day, every group that's up there needs to be of the mind that we are moving the black race forward, because in moving us forward, we're moving humanity forward.
Yeah.
And so,
and we have a lot of our own shit to deal with as well. So I'm not of the belief that black liberation can be won in this country with just black people.
Not at all. You need allies.
That doesn't make any sense, because we don't have enough power over anything. Yeah. Really.
We need allies, and we need to get rid of some of these niggas. Jeffrey, I would swap a white man that I've met plenty with sense over Jeffrey's in a heartbeat. Get that nigga out of there.
Mm-hmm.
So it is. We need allies. We need building power across lines, but we also have to figure out as a people, how do we? What is our top 10? What do we want?
Yeah.
What do we need? And
because some people just want a big house.
They want a big house, and they forget about people in prison.
Right.
Free my niggas.
Hello.
Most of them.
Hello.
Put some more in there, actually. And now, could we swap?
I mean,
can we do a prisoner swap? I'm glad Diddy in there. Keep that nigga. Throw that key away. You know what I'm saying? But free some of my other ones. But once again, I've never been to prison, but they're my niggas too.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the system that we're in has encouraged us to be separate. But let's strive for unity in the community. Yeah.
So just sit with that, think about it, how you define yourself, and how we can reach across some of these really false lines that have these walls that have been put up, and knock them down.
Yeah. And I'm curious, just on the organization tip, like, for people to share with us, like, put in the comments or whatever, like, what do you actually need to know about an organization in order to say yes to being a member?
That's a good one.
Like, what is it that you need to know? I imagine there's values. Niggas want to know who all gonna be there. Niggas want to know if they're going to be
heavy on who all gonna be there.
I forget the word, but when you're kind of singled out because of your age, or because you're a woman, or because you're queer, or because those kind, and you're propped up because you just hold those identities. Like, what actually is it that people need to know in order to say yes to joining a liberatory organization?
I think you got to meet
I
the
would
right
love to know.
person. I
Yeah,
follow Didi
sometimes
wherever Didi go. Now if Didi said, "Britt, pull up to this," I bet.
Right.
I meet I meet some other black people who are my niggas. I love them. They come up to me.
Brittany be quiet. She don't be having nothing to say. She just be
No,
observing.
trust
She
me.
be observing everybody.
When I start talking, I don't stop. So I like to I like to sit back for at least a little bit to observe.
Okay, you know yourself.
I know myself because don't nobody want the person who first meeting get that mic and it's like, I ain't now, damn it. Put the shit down. Did you come to preach or did you come to learn? You know what I'm saying? And I'm usually there to preach.
Right.
So I have to shut up.
Yeah, okay.
Trust
That's
me.
good.
If I'm quiet, let me. Let me be quiet. I don't need to speak at that moment until I know the right things to say.
Yeah, yeah. And I'll share more too about my journey of being a part of organizations. There's a few that I've been a part of just over the past 10 or so years, and so, you know, where you start is not always where you stay.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and where you land is not always where you become liberated. So,
Oh, that's a bar.
I just made that up.
Oh, shit.
You let it.
So for those of you all listening to episode 4, if you are in an organization, drop the organization in the comments and do a little, I don't know, 140 character spiel.
Yeah.
Your Hinge profile. Drop it in the, we don't have to have the app. We can utilize what we got.
Exactly.
Drop it in the comments and say, this is why you all need to come check us out. And drop the city and state as well.
Love to share. We love to share.
Yes.
But thank y'all for listening.
Yes, to all my people.
Thank you.
I love y'all niggas. Man, I love y'all.
We
niggas.
really do.
We really
do.
I'm about to listen to Frankie Beverly right now.
I love black people more and more every day.
Every day.
Mm-hmm.
So thank y'all for another episode. We are like almost halfway through the season.
Yeah.
But we ain't done.
We not done.
Yeah. So subscribe, share, tell a friend.
Like, comment.
Hit us up.
Please.
If you want to tussle in the DMs, meet me there.
Meet her there. Meet her there, please. And thank y'all again. We really appreciate your support, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you.